On my very first backpacking trip, my pack weighed 50 pounds. I know what was in it, and I'm going to tell you, but I need you to understand the headline item first. Part of that weight was a full-size snowboard with bindings and boots. Strapped to the outside of a pack, I was carrying up a 14,000-foot volcano in the snow. Today, everything I need to live in the wilderness for days weighs about 15 pounds. I can pick it up with 2 fingers. So the obvious question is how? How do you cut 35 pounds? Well, I'll show you. But the real story of this video is a number that isn't in the title, because on the way down from 50 to 15, my pack didn't stop at 15. It kept going all the way down to 10 pounds. And that pack, the one I spent years and an embarrassing amount of money building, came closer to making me quit backpacking than the 50-pound monster ever did. Let me paint you the full picture of trip number 1, because every detail makes it worse. The plan? Summit Mount Shasta in Northern California in snow as my first backpacking trip ever. And before you give me too much credit, that idea wasn't even mine. My college roommate, who had a bit of experience, invited me along. He supplied the expertise. I supplied everything you're about to hear. The food? Canned soup and frozen hamburgers. I packed for a volcano the way you'd pack for a tailgate. I think on some level, I believe there'd be like a grill up there. And the water? All of it. Every drop I planned to drink for the entire trip carried on my back from the car because it hadn't occurred to me that there was any other way to have water in the wilderness. I hauled liters of it up that mountain while walking past snowbanks. Frozen water as far as the eye could see in every direction. And then the snowboard. Board, bindings, boots. 15 extra pounds strapped to the outside of my pack, swinging around behind me like a sail. Because the plan, you see, was to ride down the mountain from the summit. My roommate watched me pack all of this, by the way. Watched a first-timer strap a snowboard to a backpack and said nothing. To this day, I don't know if it was kindness or science. You'll be shocked to learn that I did not see the summit. I made it about halfway up before my body filed a formal complaint and the math became unavoidable. So we made camp right there, halfway up the mountain. I ate my sad soup, slept, woke up the next morning to first light on the snow and total silence. And then I clicked onto the board and I rode down. And I have to be honest about what happened on that ride because it's the reason this channel exists. Carving down a mountain I had carried myself up, sunrise, fresh powder, the whole world below me was the most alive I had ever felt. By the time I hit the bottom, I wasn't thinking never again. I was thinking, how fast can I get back out here? That ride lit a fire that's now 125 trips long. But one thing was obvious. The pack had nearly strangled this whole thing in the crib. So I declared war on weight. And here's the thing about that war. I won. And that was the problem. The first weight cuts were free. I learned that water filters exist. 3 ounces, so I stopped carrying half a swimming pool. The canned food became dehydrated food. The just in case pile, the spare clothes, the backup gear for the backup gear, the axe in case I might want to chop wood, went back in the closet. 50 pounds became 35, became 25, and every pound I dropped made the trips better. More miles, less pain, more fun. Cutting weight worked, which is exactly what made the next phase so seductive. Because somewhere around 20 pounds, the easy cuts ran out. And I did not stop. I bought a kitchen scale. I weighed every piece of gear I owned down to the gram and put it all in a spreadsheet. I started replacing gear with lighter gear. And lighter in the gear world is a euphemism for more expensive. Same tent, half the weight, triple the price. There's a stretch of those years I mostly remember as a series of credit card statements. Then the cuts got weird. I cut the handle off my toothbrush. saved 4 grams. I trimmed the excess strap length off my pack. I mean, couldn't be hauling those frivolous inches up a mountain. I repackaged my toothpaste into a container the size of a thimble. At one point, I caught myself deep in a forum thread where grown adults were debating whether the stitching on a stuff sack was worth removing. And I want to be clear, I was not reading it ironically. I was taking notes. My base weight hit 10 pounds. Bonafide, card-carrying ultralight. That's the official club threshold, and crossing it felt like knighthood. I had taken a 50-pound disaster and forged it into 10 pounds of pure efficiency. By every measurement, I had won. And if you've ever cut the handle off a toothbrush, or you just enjoy watching a grown man slowly earn his dignity back, subscribe. That arc is basically this entire channel. So 10 pounds, the perfect pack. And the perfect pack started quietly ruining my trips. Here's what 10 pounds actually looks like at the end of a hiking day. You get to camp and there's nowhere to sit. The chair didn't make the cut. Chairs are for the weak. So you sit on the ground, on a rock if you're lucky, in the dirt if you're not, for the entire evening. Every evening, you go to bed with no pillow because a pillow is 3 ounces of decadence. You wad up your jacket instead. The jacket wad collapses at 2 a.m. every night, like clockwork. Your shelter is a single piece of fabric held up by a trekking pole, which sounds elegant right up until a windy night where you lie there listening to it flap while condensation rains gently onto your face. And one evening, this is the moment that broke the spell. I was sitting on a wet log in the rain because sitting was no longer something I carried equipment for, eating a cold dinner because my stove had been deemed a luxury, and I looked over at my beautiful, tiny 10-pound pack and I finally did the honest math on how I felt. The hiking was fantastic. The other 18 hours were misery. And I had done this to myself slowly over the years without ever noticing because every individual cut had a justification and the number kept going down. And the number going down felt like winning. Anytime a number stands in for the thing you care about, the number will eventually eat the thing. Mine just happened to be measured in grams. So I did the one move my entire identity says was illegal. I made my pack heavier on purpose. 5 pounds went back into the pack, and I chose every ounce like it had to win a job interview. A real tent, double wall, freestanding with actual structure, pitches in minutes, no condensation dripping on my forehead at 3 a.m. A folding camp chair, the single heaviest luxury I own and the best money I've ever spent. Because the difference between sitting in dirt and sitting in a chair is the difference between enduring an evening and enjoying one. An inflatable pillow, a few ounces, ended the 2 a.m. jacket wad collapse forever. And a small candle lantern, which saves no weight, serves no survival purpose, and is the item I will defend the most fiercely. Because at night, with weather coming down outside and a chair under me and one small live flame on the table, camp stops being the thing you survive between hikes. It becomes the reason you came. So that's the 15-pound pack. And before the comments arrive, yes, 15 pounds before food and water for the sticklers. It's not the lightest pack I can build, but it's the lightest pack that carries everything a good trip requires. And after years on both sides of this, I can tell you that everything a good trip requires includes, for me, a place to sit. The 50-pound pack and the 10-pound pack were the same mistake in different outfits. Both times, I let something other than the actual trip decide what I carried. The first time, it was ignorance. The second time, it was a scoreboard. People ask me how I got from 50 pounds to 15, and they're expecting a gear list. But the hard part was never subtracting the weight. Anybody can remove things. I removed things until I was sleeping in the dirt under a flapping sheet, deeply proud of myself. The skill that took me 100 trips to learn was knowing what to keep. The weight on your back should be the cost of the trip you want. No more than that, but no less either. Now, the 10-pound years did more damage than I can cover in this video, so I made a whole video about walking away from ultralight, what it cost me, what I brought back first, and the mindset I had to unlearn. If this video was the map, that one's the deep dive, and it's right there. So get out there, carry what makes the trip worth taking, and I'll see you on the trail.